Thanks for attending today's webinar, the non-negotiable 7-step content formula for your association website. Some quick housekeeping. Please, by all means, feel free to ask some questions in the Q&A area. Due to the duration of the webinar being just 30 minutes, we won't answer the questions on the call, but what I'll do is I'll send an email out tomorrow to everyone with the answers in writing to the entire group. If you would like to just talk one-on-one with me about a particular question, by all means, feel free to do that as well. At the end of today's webinar, I'll provide a link that will send you to a page with additional resources, a copy of this PowerPoint as a PDF, and tomorrow we'll also in that email share a link of this as a recording on YouTube. So let's talk about content. We know content is important, and we know good content is a good idea. So we're in agreement there. But the question is, how do we make content good? How can we ensure the content we post is effective? Well, that's what we're here to talk about today. But first, let's talk through a common scenario. You have a table full of smart associates brainstorming over a particular idea for your organization. Someone says inevitably, hey, that's a great idea. We should post that to our website. And everyone agrees that should be done. And it's at that very moment where the importance of our 7-step formula comes into play. What happens at your organization the minute somebody says that? What's your current formula for posting content? How many steps is it? Do you have a process at all? Well, we've seen what can happen if you don't have a process. If any part of your content process is ad hoc or not understood fully or not documented, you can end up with any number of problems on your website. One of the most common is what we see here, the endless drop-down menu. Sort of your resources button becomes the dumping ground for all content without a home, right? The home page can get cluttered or you have members complaining that they can't find anything on your website anymore. Okay? Some of that might sound familiar. So why are we left missing the mark and having our sites grow out of control? Well, again, that's why we're here today to talk about the 7 non-negotiable steps to posting content to your site. It's a foolproof formula, and all steps must be followed for success. So, ongoing governance of your site is super critical. And, I have to say in 16 years of working with association websites, I've yet to see an organization that doesn't struggle with it to some degree. Really, it's irrefutable. How you add content to your site matters. Before we get into the formula, I do want to make sure we have an understanding of some must-haves for your organization. At the very least, you should have a content strategy and a content calendar. The calendar, because whether you know why you're posting content or not, and whether you're measuring its effects or not, at least you have a process for the timing of when things get posted, right? That's a good thing. And if you don't use a calendar today, don't worry. Today's webinar is actually going to cover all the areas you'll need for your calendar, so you'll have the framework for one as of today. And if you do use one already, congrats, good for you. I'm sure that's a great thing. And I'm sure you'll find ways to make yours better today. You'll see the gaps where they live in the one you have today and how you can make that better. As for the strategy, before you say, we don't have anything close to a documented content strategy, let alone maybe event strategy or organizational strategy, whatever it might be. We don't have the manpower for that at the time. We don't even know how to do it. Okay, it's just not going to happen. That's okay. The good news is I will offer you a way to get a strategy statement completed by the end of this webinar. In fact, I'm going to give you the blueprint for that in just a minute. For those that have a documented content strategy of some kind, that's awesome. You're on the right track, and this 7-step formula will help definitely take you to the next level. So let's lay a little groundwork here real quick, okay? This is the blueprint for a content strategy statement. You don't really need too much more than this, unless you want to, right? You could even have more than one of these statements if that makes sense, but the point here is to think through what you're really, truly trying to achieve when you post content to your site? And this statement is something, once you finish it up, that you could share throughout your organization. So what's the blueprint? Here's how it reads. The content we produce helps our association accomplish goal by providing descriptive content that makes our people feel a certain way so they can achieve X and Y. Okay, that's a really solid blueprint. And if you can fill in the gaps there, you're going to have something that can serve as a vision strategy statement for your site. Here's what one looks like filled out. Okay. The content we produce helps us increase membership by creating authority in our industry by providing one-of-a-kind, relevant, and engaging content that makes our members feel like they are part of something bigger than their jobs and that they have a place to turn for industry information so that they can be leaders themselves in their careers. So you see how that works? Very easy to put together, and this is a nice little paragraph. You can share this throughout, and it can serve as the platform by which you base this 7-step formula. As for a content calendar, I'm just showing this one right here as a point of reference for anyone that maybe doesn't have one or doesn't know what they look like. The one we'll end up with at the end will be much better than this. I'm also going to provide a link at the end to a web page that has a long list of very cool content calendars from places like HubSpot and Curata and others that you can download, and then you can use those to modify those a bit or turn them into whatever you need, but you don't have to start from square one on those. So what are the rules of the 7-step formula? It applies to everything, okay? That's it. That's our rule. Okay, remember, this is a non-negotiable formula, right? What content are we really talking about? When we say content, what are you talking about? Well, a lot of things. Some of it can be on the website. Some of it can be off the website as well, whether it's through email or social. Okay, so some of these things are probably pretty intuitive to you. Why did I cross out absolutely all? Well, let's talk about some things where you say, look, I'm not going to do this formula for every little thing. Okay, the organization's address, I'm just updating it because we moved. I don't need to go through a process for that. Well, maybe. Our staff listing is just there for information. Well, maybe we can decide on that. Images, it's just an image. Can I just put it up there? Well, we're going to make an argument later that maybe even images need to go through the process. So let's jump right in. Number 1 is goal. And it's way easier to not think about step number 1, okay? It takes thought work that we might not have the time or energy to apply to every single thing, right? But it's number 1 for a reason, because you need to know this no matter what. If you can't answer what the goal of this particular piece of content is, you need to take a hard look at the validity of that piece of content, all right? So as I just said, sort of to clarify, we're talking about not just the site in general, we're talking about each piece of content that you post. What is the goal for it? Here's some ideas that could be goals for your content. Raise awareness, inform. Well, that's a no-brainer. All words inform on some level, but we'll talk about what the distinguisher there is. Share. Do we want people to comment, register, purchase, or even download? Okay. Let's see how that actually maps to pieces of real-world types of content, okay? For early bird, we want to post that information in a way that encourages. No, it insists, right, that the user register for your event right now to get the discount. Yes, we could say it's to inform and raise awareness, but it's not the primary goal. And we'll see later why we have a primary goal and why that matters, okay? President's blog post. We have a different set of goals because her blog post is about an important industry topic that is maybe currently in the news. We want the public or our members to comment and share so we can take the temperature of our constituents. I mean, that's what we're really trying to do here. So you get the idea of where this is headed with goals. Let's build on that. Number 2 is audience. For those of you that were on our last webinar, you'll know that this, again, is not something to be taken lightly. Just a couple months ago, in May, Forbes.com posted this article, 10 rookie digital marketing mistakes you might be making. Number one is you don't know your target audience. Okay. This is a very common place. Again, it takes some thought work to think about what this piece of content is trying to achieve, right? And who's it for? Our members. Well, maybe we can get more specific than that. This is a persona and then related scenarios. Now, this is a tool that we use when we build new websites for our clients. We have 5 to 7 of these on any given project, and they're fictitious, of course, but they really emulate real world people, who they are and what they're trying to do on the site. And as you build these, they become excellent, even ongoing governance tools, as we're talking about right now. Is this content right for what persona? That's the question. What persona is it right for? Well, if we can't answer that question, again, we might want to go back and look at the content and see if we've thought it through enough. Okay, if you're not doing a redesign and you're just managing your site right now on an ongoing basis and want a better way to manage your content, this isn't the worst idea to go ahead and do these right now for your existing site. Try to understand, look at your existing content. What maps to this and what doesn't, okay? For the marketers on the call, this is a tool you've probably used for maybe other types of projects, but it's really absolutely critical for websites because we want to be user-focused. And the only way to do that is to know who our users are. How do we come up with the information for this? Surveys, online, interviews, talking with staff, existing survey information that you might have. All right, so let's continue mapping now. Like your goals, it's important to be specific about your audience as well. You can see already, right, how doing this is actually creating a framework for the content itself, like I just mentioned, how it gets written, how long it is, etc. Right? It could also affect how you personalize content on your website as well. So for early bird, we're saying those not registered, right? That's different than members or non-members. Because what if we know, based on someone's login, if they've registered or not for the event already? Do they still need early bird pricing if they've already registered? No, they don't. Could we use that space for something else, right? That's getting into personalization. It's an important component of content these days. So identifying that audience is critically important. Latest legislation evangelists, what do I mean by that? Active members, people that are willing to speak great things about your organization online or in person. Could you have more than one audience for a piece? Yes. But again, we want to be specific so our content, the copy, it doesn't become diluted trying to serve everyone. And then, of course, it ends up serving no one. Let's go on to number 3, which is context. And it's really the linchpin step of the formula. It's a nuance that can be easily missed when you post content, but you miss it at your own peril. It's just absolutely critically important. And here is what context is in a nutshell. It's the where of the user experience. Okay, so for example, we have clients whose members are CPAs, they're accountants, and they're at a desk all day. And then we have healthcare orgs whose members are never at a desk, right? They're in the hospital doing their job. So how will your members, or the public or the press, whoever your audience might be, this particular segment of membership, be taking in your content? Where will they be? What time of day will it be? What type of device will they be using? What kind of mood will they be in? Are they tired at night after a long day, or are they vitalized in the middle of a busy workday? Okay? These are things you absolutely need to consider. And this probably is leading you to think, well, there might be an inevitability here of potentially needing different content around the same topic based on different contextual settings. Okay? And you'd be right for thinking that it's potential. Everything here is sort of building, right? So here's a real world example. The transplant surgeons, this is one of our clients. What you see on the left is a screenshot of their tablet responsive web design view. Okay? Their actual website on like a laptop screen looks very similar to this, but we've just skipped that one and gone down to the iPad, so you can see what that looks like as it's reducing to a smaller screen. On the right, you have the mobile, and you can instantly see the distinctions and the differences. Well, why is that? Well, they know by asking their members, again, critically important to bring in stakeholders and members as part of your process. And they just know inherently some things about their membership as to what kind of content would be practical and reasonable for a mobile device. So they know they might be on their way to an event or thinking about an event, at an event. So let's provide some event information right there at the top. And then, of course, they want to keep up on things. So let's provide the journal. Maybe they're online waiting for some donuts, right? They just want to read the journal. Let's let them do that. Or catch up on industry news. It's right there at their fingertips when they go to the site. This is not a mobile app on the right. This is their website completely transforming itself into a contextual experience for them. You'll notice, too, the academic universe on the left is nowhere to be found on the mobile. Why? That's their learning management system of videos where they get to view transplant surgeries and learn from them. Well, that's just not something they're clearly going to do on their phone, nor do we probably want them to do that. Okay. Great example of thinking about a contextual experience. Remember we talked about images. Well, here's an organization. You can look at the horizontal image at the top of each of these screenshots and how they're different. And then look at the area of the world that they're coming from, okay? Their members said, we want a cultural, local kind of feel to your website, okay? Sure, you're in the United States, but we're all over the world. So anytime the website knows where you're coming from in the world and will display certain imagery based on that information, okay? Seems like a very basic thing to do, but you can see how impactful that would be to bring people into your website. And I can't express how contextual, aspects of websites can affect the tone and content. And, obviously imagery can be a part of that as well. So we'll go on to number 4, and that's channel. And what we have is, our organization is in the middle of all this stuff. And this is a good thing. We have this hub of a website, but we have to think of all these other channels of content that exist today. We've talked about the mobile devices and how that can be a contextual experience. How are we distributing our content out to those? How are we obviously distributing across these social media platforms? Because they're different and we should be delivering across them in a different way. Search engines are on here because how we optimize our content affects how Google sees it and indexes it and shows it to the world. If we want to be the authority in our industry that our content statement says it does, well, then we better make sure we're optimizing so when people search on certain keywords, maybe they're particular keywords of our industry, our articles pop up, our web page pops up. Okay, it's not about just trying to recruit people and have them find you on the web so they become a member. It's about becoming an authority in your industry. It's one of a multitude of reasons why we want to optimize our content for the search engine. So this has created a new paradigm for us as associations. And what we are is, as associations, we are now content distributors delivering contextual experiences over specific channels. Okay? As associations, we are now content distributors delivering contextual experiences over specific channels. It's just not about a static website anymore. So let's look at some examples on how we can apply some of this content to certain channels. We want to have a channel-specific approach to our content. All right, so we're back to the early bird pricing, and we're going to distribute it across 5 channels, okay? So on the website, we got to have the page that has the Register Now button, right? And here's all the info. It's kind of the hub of this situation. That's where everything's going to direct back to this page that says, we insist that you register now because this is compelling and you should do it, okay? Well, how do we do that across social media? Many times, we broadcast on Twitter, on Facebook, whatever it might be. We say, hey, everybody, early bird is open. Go register. I'm not saying don't do that. In fact, you probably should just to make sure. Okay, is that compelling and engaging for members? So does that get caught up in the noise on Twitter as someone's feed is just ripping through, multiple tweets at any given time? Yeah. What we need to think about is how can we be specific about these channels? So Facebook, for example, it's a people's platform, isn't it? It's about people. Well, it's about cats and dogs and the funny things they do too, but it's about people. Okay. So instead of just saying early bird is open, maybe one of your evangelists or active members, you have a testimonial that says something like this with their picture. Hey, this event is great. I go to it every single year, and I'm signing up for early bird this year because the event's in Arizona, and I'm going to take the $200 I save for early bird and spend it on a day playing golf with other members and getting to know them. Okay? That's compelling. I'm on Facebook. I see that. There's a story. It's about people, and it's about why other people like me are doing it, not the organization saying you should do this. It's people like me saying I'm doing this, and here's why. Very different, right? Twitter. What can we do there? Well, let's just say on this particular day, you've had 17 people already sign up for early bird, okay? Well, your next tweet could be, what have 17 other members taken advantage of today that you haven't? And put a shortened link on there to the early bird pricing. Right? That might make me sit up and go, oh, I'm not being broadcast to, I'm being engaged. And this is intriguing. And these are the kind of things we'll get people to click. Maybe we're sending out an email and we want to put a block ad in there with a call to action. Okay, fine. Mobile, well, we looked at what ASTS did. Couldn't we just say, well, why early bird's on? Look, I don't want to have something flashing on the home page. We've got a lot of important content that people aren't just coming to our homepage of our main website about the event. But what about on mobile? If we just put a nice little link or a little promotional small little link there at the top of the mobile template, so when anyone came on mobile, they know about the early bird. Why does that make sense? Well, we know people open your emails. Go look at your stats, right? They're opening your emails on their mobile device. And if they're clicking through a link, regardless of what it might be for, that's on their phone, okay? Well, this is low-hanging fruit then, right? Instead of trying to pummel them with your entire organization's worth of information, why don't you just tell them about early bird right at the top? Simple. Okay, on to number 5, contributor. Who should write this stuff? Yes, who should write the content? Now that we see we need to write for an audience and a channel or two, who should do this? Okay. The question to ask is, are qualified people posting content across your channels today? If so, great, you're in a good place. If not, then where do we go from here? Okay, there's some important things to consider. The voice, the universal voice of your website is critical. It's the personality of your site, isn't it? So if it's the personality, is your site sane and coherent, or is it schizophrenic? And maybe quite a few of our clients say, look, it doesn't have one voice, right? Our personality isn't coming through in our site content. When it comes to tone, how are you saying it? Okay, you can give directions to the library to a 4-year-old or a 40-year-old. It's the same information, but your tone is going to be very different. Okay? So it depends on the audience. It could dictate the tone and the other elements here as well. So could context, right? Is the copy that you're writing jargony, industry jargon? Maybe it should be. Okay, let's ask the question. Is it too long? Is it too short? Do we need bullets or not bullets? Is there a subject matter expert at the helm of this content? Okay. Check this out. This is pretty cool. And I'll send you a link to what article this came from. This is a great piece for a governance tool, right? Do we think about taking it this far? Well, we should. It's a guide to your site's tone. We want to be friendly, open, and fun. What does that mean? It means informal, but we're going to avoid jargon. Conversational. Could it be read aloud to students? What it doesn't mean is that we're unprofessional, we make grammar mistakes. We're open, so we're inclusive, but doesn't mean we're untrustworthy with the student's confidential data. Okay? If you want to be fun, don't be excitable. Don't use exclamation marks and punctuation all over the place. Don't exaggerate. Okay? An excellent, excellent tool. So we're already kind of back full circle to who should write this stuff. I don't have the answer, but you should have a team of writers, contributors. Some folks outsource, want to ensure expertise. Okay, but the point is here, this is part of the step, isn't it? You see how important it is as we consider the steps previous? We don't want to make assumptions that whoever is more than willing to do the content is the right person, but maybe we partner them up with somebody. Again, maybe we're thinking about different content across different channels and we need more than one person on this one content item. Okay. Get the right person to do the job. On to number 6. 6 is timing. Okay, we always know when we want content to go up. But when should it come down? I mean, maybe never, and that's fine, but it's important to know that. And we don't want to turn our site into a hoarder's house, right, to be sifted through and purged like the TV shows only after it becomes debilitating to our organization. That's just not where we want to be. Okay? So timing can help us with that. If you have a content management system, it should do this. If it doesn't, find one that does. It allows you to publish on a particular date and have it unpublish on a particular date as well. Do you need to do that with all content? No. Is it smart, no matter what kind of content it is, to think about the day it should go up? Because maybe I'll just get it done today because it's easy, but maybe it's better on Monday that it goes up on Monday. Right? When should it come down? Maybe it's in a year. That's okay. Maybe it's in a week. Let's have the conversation. Let's have the thoughts. Okay. Maybe that's seasonal content, whatever it might be. But we need to think. Not just, hey, let's just don't link to that page anymore, but let's keep it out there just in case. Well, maybe not live to the world. Why? Remember the search engines? They're going to index that and find it still. So now you're sending people to content from 2014 that comes up higher in a search engine because it's been online longer, more people are linking to it and visiting it than your 2016 content. That's the same, but it's more recent and relevant. But 2014, because it's still on your website, is getting a higher bill. So let's map it out. Again, very simple. And maybe we're not bringing all content down, but let's also put a date out there to take a look at it. Okay. Latest legislation, maybe we just want to look at it on December 1st. We don't want to bring it down because maybe things have changed. Maybe our opinion about it has changed. Maybe there's more to be said. Maybe we should rewrite that page or that article or that press release or reissue it. Timing of content. Okay, we're moving right along here. Let's go to number 7. M and M. And that stands for monitor and measure. So for the marketing-minded folks, there are tools, so many of them. There's too many here to list. But there's tools that you can do A/B testing. So you could send a different page to 2 different segments of users, and you could see which one gets higher conversion rates, for example. That kind of thing is great if you have the bandwidth and the wherewithal to take it that far. There are many other tools that we can take a look at as well. One is a no-brainer, Google Analytics. If you don't have Google Analytics on your website, you need to have it. For those that do, we can attest that there's so much data in there. Which things do we look at? What is important and what isn't? That's another webinar altogether, but want to stress that you're tracking content. That's what this does, okay? So why post it? Why go through the steps if we're not going to monitor and measure it at the end to see if we actually achieved what we set out to achieve, because that was number 1, the goal, okay? What kind of things do we want to monitor? You can even in Google Analytics track, again, I don't want to get too far out in the weeds, but you can track the path of users. Where do you want them to go? Tell Google Analytics the 4 pages you want them to follow through, and every time somebody does that, it will give you a point and say, good job. But it also tells you when someone stops at number 3. So you've got 6 people that have converted from page 1 to 4, but you have 27 people that stopped at page 3. I'm guessing there's something wrong with the content on page 3. Let's go look at it. And let's see why we're not getting people to page 4. Oh, the button is hidden below the fold. It's not very big. It's just a link. It's not a button. Right? Let's try to look at things. Some of the stuff is usability, some of it's content, but it's all related. Right? It's all things on your website. We provide our clients a few different reports a couple times a year, sometimes more. Not only do we review their Google Analytics, but we do a search engine optimization report as well. That's what we're looking at here. Very generic dashboard. There's much deeper content that we look at as well. But again, back to the search engines. How are people finding our content? Through what keywords did we want them to find our content? And how are those keywords working for us? Where are they coming to find us? Through what keyword? From what part of the world? From what part of the country? At what time of the day? What are they doing after they visit that page? Where are they going? Okay. A multitude of ways to track data there and to measure. This is a heat map for anyone that hasn't seen one of these before. It's an overlay of your site. This is something we provide to our clients as well. And it shows in red the hot areas where people click a lot. Generally, those show up over buttons or down the left. And we say that users read your site in an F-shaped pattern. And doesn't this support that F-shape? It sure does. We've seen heat maps that look very different than this. They only have maybe 3 or 4 red areas, and the others are greenish and yellow. We've even had a client where they had 5 primary navigation buttons. 4 of them had the big red heat marks on them, and 1 of them had nothing. So imagine a primary navigation button getting 0 clicks in essence over a particular period of time. We generally do these for about a month. See what happens over the course of a month. What is going on with that button? Should it be a button? Is it named wrong? What's going on? There's something. So then maybe that leads us to some informal usability testing. Maybe we just try some things and test for another month and see if that doesn't change. But very, very important kinds of tests to run on how your content is being looked at. And boards, and executives that you just need to give them a snapshot of your success. Here's a great image to do that. It validates so many things. What's this? It's a confetti map. Okay, you can distinguish all the clicks you get on this page. And you can't see it on this slide, but it also tells you by color what the referral source was for that click, what the search term was, and a bunch of other cool data for why these are different colors and who came from where to do this, and then where did they click. This is a scroll map. It shows how far down the page people are scrolling and helps you determine where visitors are abandoning the site. Okay. So are people coming below the fold a little bit here? Okay. We see where people are scrolling and not scrolling. So these are some very useful tools. There are others around social media tracking. I'm sure many of you use social media tracking tools now. We put on all of our clients' site those little icons that allow you to share across the social media or email it to somebody through a platform called addthis.com. And they have a very robust reporting platform by which you can see how your social is happening as well. Okay, so we've been through all 7. Let's just do a very, very quick review. 1, what's the goal? 2, who's it for? Context, we talked about that being linchpin. 4, channel. 5, contributor. 6, when is this happening and how do we measure? Okay. So let's go back to our meeting, heading down the path of potential ad hoc content posting, right? And now we're going to stop, whether you're the person proposing the content or you're in the group or the person about to post content that someone else gave to you, okay? We can look at these 7 steps in a unique way as well with asking the questions. Here's a template of questions. Get the answers you need to make sure we're achieving the 7 steps. What should this content achieve? Who is this content for? Where are they taking in this content? How should we deliver it? Who should produce it? When should it go live and come down? And how do we know if we did good? Okay, just another tool to take with you of questions to ask. Okay. So what's the culmination of this? Remember that content calendar we were talking about? All right, this is simplified, but you get the idea. We're back to early bird. And what kind of things are up here? Okay. Probably add some goals in here too. Okay, but you get the idea. We want to fill this out. And we want to make sure we understand and follow all 7 steps. And again, I'll give you a link to a page here in just a moment with all the resources. So that concludes our webinar today. Thank you all for attending. Hope to see you again very soon. If you reference the box above my picture, there's a URL there. You can go there now and download the PDF and find some other links. Tomorrow, I'll have this presentation on YouTube with the link from YouTube. Thanks again for everyone for attending.